My parents ruined my life to protect my brother, but I finally got my revenge. Hi Reddit. This might be one of the longest posts I'll ever write, but I need to finally let it out. This is about my parents, my brother, betrayal that ruined years of my life, and how I finally got the revenge I didn't even know I needed. I, 25F, grew up in what people from the outside would call a picture-perfect family. We had a nice house, 2 cars, family vacations at least once a year. People thought we were stable, maybe even a little above average. But what outsiders didn't see was how twisted things were inside the walls of our home. My brother, Ethan, 28 million, was the golden child. And I don't mean slightly favored. I mean full-on, worshipped, pampered, can do no wrong, golden boy. Me? I was the afterthought, the scapegoat, the one who always had to give way so Ethan could shine. Let me paint you a picture of what this looked like growing up. If Ethan got a C in school, my parents clapped for him. You tried. That's what matters. If I brought home an A, they asked, why not an A plus? When Ethan turned 13, he got a brand new gaming console. When I turned 13, I got a card that said, "We're proud of you," and a sweater that wasn't even my size. If Ethan broke something in the house, my parents blamed me. You should have stopped him. If I broke something? Punished, grounded, lectured. And birthdays? Don't even get me started. Ethan got parties with balloons, cousins, expensive presents. I once got a half-eaten cake because my mom forgot to order one until the last minute. One memory that will never leave me. I was 12, Ethan was 15. He wanted a new mountain bike. He asked, and 2 weeks later, there was a shiny $500 bike in the garage. I wanted a bike too. I asked. My parents told me, "Save your allowance." I got $5 a week. At that rate, I would need 2 years just to afford something half decent. Guess what I ended up riding? Ethan's old hand-me-down, rusty, with squeaky brakes. And if I complained, my dad would say, "Stop being jealous. Your brother just has more needs than you do." It sounds small, but when you stack hundreds of moments like that over a lifetime, it crushes you. High school years were the same story. I worked my ass off. I loved learning. I loved sports. I joined clubs. I made friends. Teachers praised me. But at home, none of it mattered. I once won a regional science fair. My mom didn't even come. Said she was busy. But when Ethan got a participation trophy for just showing up to a football game, the entire family went out to a restaurant to celebrate. The worst moment was when I was 16. Ethan borrowed my laptop. He said it was for a school project. 3 days later, the principal called me in. My laptop had been used to cheat on an online test. It was Ethan. But because it was my laptop, I was suspended. I begged my parents to believe me. They didn't. They said, "You embarrassed this family. Don't lie." I lost friends. I almost lost my college recommendation. Ethan? Nothing happened. He smirked the entire time. That was the first real betrayal that showed me my parents would throw me under the bus without hesitation if it meant protecting Ethan. Fast forward, I worked 2 jobs in college. I graduated top of my class in marketing. I fought for everything I had. Ethan dropped out after 1 semester. He couldn't focus. He lived at home, bounced between crappy jobs, spent hours gaming and finding himself. My parents? They still praised him. He's talented. He just needs the right opportunity. Meanwhile, I landed my dream job. Entry level, but at a great firm. For once, I felt like my hard work had paid off. I was paying my own rent, building my own credit, finally seeing a future for myself. And then, the call came. One morning, my phone buzzed. It was my bank. "Hello, we're calling to confirm a $15,000 loan application in your name." At first, I laughed nervously. "No, that's not me. I didn't apply for anything." But the woman read back all my information: my social security number, my address, even my workplace. I froze. How could someone have all that? Turns out Ethan did. I confronted him, shaking with rage. He didn't deny it. He smirked and said, "Relax, sis. You've got good credit." "I don't. You should be happy to help me out." Happy. That's the word he used. Like he'd done me a favor. I went to my parents furious. "He stole my identity. He's ruining my life." My mom said, "Don't be dramatic. He's family. He'll pay it back." My dad said, "Stop making trouble." Spoiler: they never paid a cent. The fallout was instant and suffocating. Within a week, 2 credit cards I actually owned reduced my limits due to recent risk activity. A collections letter showed up for a store card I'd never opened. My rent auto payment failed because my bank froze my account pending identity verification. It felt like watching my life slide off a cliff in slow motion while everyone around me told me it was no big deal. At work, HR called me in. They were kind, but it was humiliating. My manager sat in with a tight smile while the HR rep said, "Your background check update shows recent delinquencies. Can you clarify?" I told the truth. I didn't cry in that room, but I did in the bathroom afterward. I cried quietly in those awful paper towels until the rawness in my chest settled into a cold, steady anger. That night, I called my parents again. I asked them, calmly, to meet me halfway. Help me file formal disputes, make Ethan pay, stand with me when I call the bank's fraud department. My mom sighed like I'd asked her to move a mountain. "Sweetheart, stress isn't good for you. Let your brother breathe. He said he'll fix it." My dad added, "We're not dragging the police into family business." There it was, the line in the sand, family business. So I made a plan. I bought a cheap printer scanner. I started a folder on my desktop titled Justice. Inside, subfolders for loans, texts, emails, bank calls, timeline. I pulled my credit reports from all 3 bureaus and highlighted accounts I didn't recognize. I scheduled time with a banker to certify my signature on file and compared it to the loopy, careless scribble on the loan documents. I requested copies of applications I had submitted. IP logs showed the form was filled out at my parents' address, during a time I was at the office across town, clocked in on our badge system. Ethan still texted like nothing was wrong. "Ethan, you get the code I sent? Need to verify something real quick." Me. Lose my number. Ethan. Chill. You're so dramatic. It's just a bridge loan. I'll handle it. He had the audacity to ask me for verification codes. He was literally still trying to open more credit in my name while I was patching the holes he'd already blown in my life. I changed every password, locked my credit files, set alerts for any new inquiries. I told the leasing office what was happening and brought letters from the bank proving I was the victim, not the culprit. The property manager glanced at the papers and said, "My brother did this to me in 2016. I'm not evicting you." I almost hugged her. At work, one person really saved me, Jasmine, a senior in my team. She found me staring at a spreadsheet after hours and asked if I was okay. I told her the watered-down version. She said, "You can either let this define you Or you can make it your origin story. Which sounds more like you? It was the first time anyone framed me as the main character. Meanwhile, my parents escalated. My mom started a family group chat with me, my dad, and Ethan. Mom, we need to talk as a family. Ethan, LMK when I'm busy RN me. There's nothing to discuss until he pays what he stole. Dad, money can be replaced. Family can't. I stared at that last line for a long time. If money can be replaced, replace it. I wanted to scream. Instead, I took screenshots. I booked a consultation with a consumer rights lawyer. I showed up with a binder. Yes, a literal binder, tabbed and color-coded. She skimmed, then looked at me over her glasses. You've done half my job for me. She explained the options: police report, FTC identity theft affidavit, fraud disputes, potential civil suit, and, if the DA took interest, criminal charges. The hardest part for victims? She said gently. It's when the offender is family. It's common to freeze up here. I didn't freeze. I burned. Not all of it went smoothly. One lender refused to send me the application copy for privacy reasons, which would have been funny if it wasn't my privacy they were protecting from me. Another claimed the signature matched closely enough. I filed complaints with the state regulator. I logged hours of calls. I stopped waiting for anyone to rescue me. Ethan kept popping up like a bad notification. He showed up at my apartment once, loud at the door, calling my name like we were kids. I didn't open it. I filmed the hallway and texted him, "Do not come here again." He replied with the selfie from my parents' couch 10 minutes later, middle finger up. I saved that too. On a Sunday night, my mom called, voice syrupy and brittle. "Sweetheart, your father's blood pressure is up. This conflict is literally making him sick. Can you just let your brother set up a payment plan quietly? No police. We can fix this without making it public." I asked, "Has he paid anything?" Silence. "Thought so," I said, and hung up. The morning after the arrest, my phone lit up like a slot machine hitting 777s. First was the detective. "He's in custody. He'll be arraigned this afternoon. As the primary victim, you're entitled to be notified and to request a no-contact order." His voice was matter-of-fact, but not unkind. 30 seconds later, my mom. "Mom, what did you do? He was handcuffed in front of the neighbors. Do you understand the humiliation?" Then my dad. "Dad, we're talking to a lawyer. If you have any decency, you'll tell them you don't want to press charges." I stared at the screen and felt calm. Not triumphant. Not gloating. Just steady. I typed one sentence back to both threads. Me. I'm cooperating fully with law enforcement. At work, Jasmine saw my face and ushered me into an empty huddle room. I told her. She squeezed my hand and said, "Good. Consequences are a love language no one likes to speak." HR emailed asking if I wanted a formal victim no-contact note in my personnel file to prevent any future reference checks from being used to harass me. I said yes. I went to the arraignment. I didn't plan to, but my feet carried me there. The courtroom smelled like old paper and lemon cleaner. Ethan shuffled in wearing county orange, wrists cuffed, eyes sweeping the room until they landed on me. For a second, something flickered. Shock? Anger? Then he schooled his face into boredom. The clerk read the charges: felony identity theft, fraud, forgery. The DA summarized the evidence: IP logs, application recordings, bank records, text messages requesting verification codes. It all sounded so clinical when spoken aloud, like my life could be reduced to exhibits A through G. The judge set bail higher than my parents could easily reach. My mom sobbed. My dad asked for leniency because this is a family matter. The judge looked over his glasses and said, "Sir, crimes against family are still crimes." He issued a temporary no-contact order protecting me pending a full hearing. Walking out, I almost made it to the door before my mom blocked my path. Her mascara had migrated to the corners of her eyes. "Look what you've done," she hissed. "He's your brother." I said evenly, "He is a criminal." My dad stepped in close, jaw clenched. "You could have kept this inside the family." "I tried," I said, and moved past them. That night, I cooked pasta, ate over the sink, and waited for the wave of guilt I'd been trained to feel. It didn't come. Instead, a smaller wave hit. Grief, maybe. Not for Ethan. For the version of parents I kept hoping would show up and never did. 2 days later, my aunt, my mom's sister, called me. "We aren't close. Family gatherings had always revolved around Ethan," she said quietly. "I'm proud of you." I almost dropped my phone. She told me my grandfather had gone through something similar with his brother in the 70s, and no one had pressed charges. "It ruined everyone for decades," she said. "You're breaking a cycle." I cried after we hung up, not the collapsed in a bathroom stall kind, but the cleansing kind. Work became a refuge. I threw myself into a product launch, stayed late building a deck that made our VP clap once, an involuntary, delighted clap when he saw the final slide. A week later, HR called me again to say I qualified for paid time off through our victim assistance program if I needed to attend court dates. I didn't know that existed. I thanked them, then sat in my car and breathed until my pulse slowed. My parents mortgaged a chunk of their retirement to post bail. I found out when the detective called to tell me Ethan had been released under conditions. Surrender passport, no contact with me, weekly check-ins. Within an hour, I got a text from a new number. Unknown. "You really think this is over?" I forwarded it to the detective. He traced it to a burner and filed a violation notice anyway. Ethan learned quickly. Family group chat detonated. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years weighed in with tepid, "let's all calm down" takes. One said, "Blood is thicker than water." I typed and erased 3 responses before finally sending, "Me." The full quote is, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. Chosen bonds are stronger than forced ones." Then I left the chat. My mom tried a different strategy. Remorse as ransom. "We're sorry we didn't listen sooner," she texted. "Can we handle this privately now?" Me. "Handling it privately is what enabled him. I won't do that again." She replied with a single period. Somehow that hurt worse than a paragraph. The preliminary hearing came fast. Ethan arrived in a suit that didn't fit, hair too clean, eyes mean. His lawyer argued that he was rebuilding his life, and incarceration would derail hard-won progress. The DA methodically laid out the money trail. My binder had become state's evidence, my tabs, their tabs. The judge allowed the case to proceed to trial and made the no-contact order permanent for the duration. In the hallway, Ethan fell into step behind me, just close enough to murmur, "You always wanted attention. Congrats." A deputy barked his name, and he drifted back like smoke. That night, Jasmine came over with takeout and a bottle of something sparkling that wasn't quite champagne. We sat on my floor eating noodles out of cartons, and she asked, "What happens if your parents never come around?" I stop waiting for them, I said, surprising myself with how true it felt as I said it. The small wins started stacking up. The collections account I'd been fighting finally deleted from my credit file after the state sent a certification letter. The apartment complex renewed my lease without the usual income verification hoops. At work, my VP asked me to co-lead a training because, in his words, "You are annoyingly good at turning chaos into order." I took the compliment and let it warm me. A week before trial, my dad called from an unknown number. I answered by accident. He didn't say hello. He said, "If your mother has a heart attack from this stress, it will be on you." I let the silence stretch until he added, "Smaller this time. He's still our son." "I know," I said. "And I'm still your daughter." Then I hung up first. The night before jury selection, I sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad and wrote 2 columns, things I can control and things I can't. Under the first, what I say, what I save, where I go, who gets my time. Under the second, my parents' choices, Ethan's choices, the verdict. I folded the paper and put it in my wallet like a talisman. Trial started on a Tuesday. I took the stand Wednesday morning. My hands didn't shake. I told the truth. I told it cleanly. I watched the jurors' pens move, heard the scratch of ink like a metronome. When it was over, I stepped down and met Ethan's eyes by accident. For the first time, I didn't see the boy who got bikes and parties and easy absolution. I saw a man who had finally met a boundary he couldn't charm or bully his way past. The jury went out. I waited. 6 hours later, the jurors filed back in. The 4-person stood. Guilty on all counts. Ethan's head dropped like someone cut the strings on a puppet. My mother wailed so loud the bailiff had to escort her out. The judge sentenced him to 18 months in prison with credit for time served. He'd be out in about a year. I thought I'd feel fire, rage, vindication, triumph. What I felt was release, like exhaling after holding my breath for 25 years. That night, I drove home in silence. No music, no calls, just the hum of the tires on the highway. I made tea, sat on my balcony, and let the night air settle around me. For the first time in forever, I wasn't carrying someone else's weight. It wasn't joy. It wasn't victory. It was peace. And peace, I realized, was more powerful than revenge could ever be. Time does strange things after a verdict. Days telescope and flatten. One morning, you wake up and realize a month has gone by, and you didn't think about him before coffee. Ethan went to a state facility 2 hours away. The first week, my parents drove out there with a plastic bag of commissary-approved snacks and a list of things he needed. The second week, my mom called me crying in the canned goods aisle of a grocery store. "He says the beds are hard and the food is terrible." I said, "That sounds like prison." And she hung up. He wasn't allowed to contact me directly because of the order, so he triangulated. Letters to my parents that they photographed and forwarded. "Tell her this is temporary. Tell her I forgive her." Then the money requests started. "Put $200 on my books. I need shoes. I need calls." My parents drained an account I didn't know they had, then called me to say, "We're doing our part. Why won't you do yours?" "My part is done," I said. My part was telling the truth. I started therapy on Tuesday mornings before work. I told the therapist I wanted strategies, not slogans. She nodded and wrote, "Boundary practice" at the top of a legal pad. The first assignment was so simple it felt insulting. When my mother called, I was to ask, "Are you calling to ask me for something or to share an update?" If it's a request, the answer is no. I practiced in the car, out loud, until the words fit my mouth. Work settled into movement. I led the training my VP asked me to co-run. I applied for a stretch project and got it. Jasmine took me for tacos to celebrate and, over paper plates, said, "You realize you stopped apologizing for existing this quarter, right?" I blinked at her. She wasn't wrong. Holidays arrived like they always do, indifferent to human drama. My parents forgot to invite me to Thanksgiving. My aunt texted me an address anyway. Her table was loud, mismatched, full of kids and stray friends. No one asked me to explain myself. I brought pies, did dishes, listened to a teenager monologue about a school play. I drove home with someone else's cinnamon in my hair and cried because the tenderness didn't hurt. Ethan learned prison. He learned to barter, to spot the easy marks, to flatter the guards without looking like he was flattering the guards. In one letter, screenshot forwarded from my mother, he wrote, "Tell her I'm changing. They have programs here. I'm in a class." In the margin, he added, "I need $75 for supplies." The casual entitlement of the addendum told me more than the paragraph did. 3 months in, my dad called in the measured voice he uses when he wants to sound reasonable. "Your mother and I think it would be healing if you wrote to him. Closure." "I am not writing to a man who used my name as a crowbar," I said. "Watch your tone." I ended the call. Credit scores crept upward digit by digit. One lender, the stubborn one, finally folded after the state sent a second, more colorful letter. I got a new card with a tiny limit that felt like a medal. I set it to pay off automatically and never thought about it again. I slept 8 hours, then 9. On Saturdays, I walked in a park with a thermos of coffee and didn't look at my phone. 6 months in, my mother tried confession as currency. "We were wrong," she said, voice small. "We didn't see him clearly. We didn't see you clearly." It might have cracked me earlier in my life. Now it felt like a weather report after the storm. "Thank you for saying that," I said. "My boundaries are still the same." She cried. I listened. I didn't fix it. Ethan's projected release date moved up for good behavior. They said 18 months at sentencing. With credit for time served and programs, it looked more like 12. My therapist said, "What's your plan for the week he gets out?" We made one. Check locks. Notify the detective if he contacts me. Keep the no-contact paperwork handy. Tell my apartment office and security staff. Travel with earbuds so I can choose when I hear my phone. On a blunt, bright Tuesday, he was released. I knew before anyone told me, the way you know a storm broke because the air changes. My mom texted a photo of him in a too-big hoodie outside the facility, jaw set, eyes bright with the kind of hunger that isn't about food. He's out. We're bringing him home. Home, meaning their house. By Friday night, he was home. By Sunday, he was bored. By Monday, he was texting numbers I didn't recognize with variations of "you up?" and "we should talk like adults." I forwarded each to the detective and got back the same steady reply. "Keep saving, we'll annotate the file." I blocked every new number. He emailed me once. Subject line empty. Body just an address request for parole paperwork, which is not a thing I am required to provide. I didn't respond. On Wednesday, he turned up in my apartment's parking lot. After my aunt's call, things went quiet. Not peaceful quiet. The kind of quiet where you know a storm hasn't left. It's just circling out of sight. My parents didn't call. Ethan didn't show up. The house I grew up in felt like a foreign country I didn't have a passport to anymore. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for the phone to ring. Half a year slipped by. In that time, I finished another project at work, got another promotion, and finally bought furniture that wasn't secondhand. I decorated my condo the way I wanted. Plants everywhere, books stacked in every corner, blankets on every chair. It felt like mine. My therapist asked me, "What's the difference between now and 2 years ago?" I said, "Back then, I was surviving. Now, I'm living." One day, an envelope showed up in my mailbox. No return address, just my name in handwriting I knew too well. I opened it. It was Ethan. He wrote, "You ruined me. You turned Mom and Dad against me. I'll never forgive you. But one day you'll realize you needed me as much as I needed you." I sat at my kitchen table and laughed. Not out of joy, not out of spite, just because it was so predictable. I fed the letter through my shredder, strip by strip, until it was confetti. Eventually, my parents reached out again. This time, not angry, just tired. My mom texted, "We miss you. We want to see you." I stared at it for a long time, and then I typed back, "I love you, but I can't come back to being the person you made me. If you want me in your lives, you have to meet me here, as I am. Not as the scapegoat, not as Ethan's shadow, as me." The typing dots blinked for a long time, then disappeared. No reply. And that, weirdly, felt like closure. Final update. It's been almost 2 years since Ethan stole my name and tried to make it his currency. He's gone now. I don't know where. Couch to couch. Maybe, or a cheap motel. My parents live smaller lives. They've stopped bragging at church, stopped inviting the whole family over for big dinners. I think shame finally knocked on their door. As for me, I'm still here. I have a home filled with plants and books and laughter. I have friends who see me. I have peace that no one can take. And when I think about my brother now, it isn't with anger. It isn't even with grief. It's with distance. The kind of distance you get when you finally walk away from a fire that was burning you down for years. I didn't just survive my family, I outgrew them. And honestly, that's the best revenge of all.